Hey podcaster, I'm Tim Wolberg, your podcast performance coach, with another actionable tip so you can grow your authority and convert with ease. Today's tip is get your head on straight or your podcast is doomed.
I'm terrible at this.
Nobody is even listening.
Everyone else has 1 million downloads, and I'm never going to get there.
I have a terrible voice.
Each episode takes hours to record, and I'm exhausted.
I think it would be better if I just quit my podcast. These are actual things podcasters have told me. Maybe you've said something similar. I know I have, which is why I can empathize. The struggle is real, but these statements you just heard aren't. And it comes down to mindset. Not having the right mindset is what kills podcasts before their time. Podcasting is a long play. For 99.99% of podcasters, it is not a way to gain instant authority or have a quick, sudden cash injection into your business. But you can help build your brand recognition, generate leads, and make sales easier if you can avoid the mindset traps. On this episode of Just One Tip from your podcast performance coach, I'm sharing the 7 most common mindset traps that derail podcasters and the one antidote that works against them all.
Podcast mindset trap number 1.
Perfectionism. Thinking that you need every episode to be perfect is going to kill your podcast spirit. You might be in this trap if you are re-recording stumbles, or if you're meticulously editing out every single or ah, or if you're missing your release dates because it could be better. Nobody is perfect, and frankly, perfect is boring and often feels fake. In fact, striving for perfect can lead to inauthenticity.
Podcast mindset trap number 2.
This might show up as download envy when you hear or see someone bragging about their numbers, or you say something like, I'm not as good or known or respected or popular as so-and-so. Comparing yourself to others is a waste of your energy and time. Just try not to do this.
Podcast mindset trap number 3.
Great expectations. Are you expecting too much too soon from your podcast? You might be caught up in this trap if you find yourself frustrated that your goals aren't being met, or feeling impatient that your podcast isn't making you money right away. Setting goals is good, but you need to be realistic with those goals.
Podcast mindset trap number 4.
Scarcity. Do you ever find yourself feeling fiercely competitive with your fellow podcasters? Maybe you feel like someone is stealing your listeners. Or maybe you see another podcast getting great numbers and you feel like giving up because they're taking all your listeners or sponsor dollars and leaving you with none. This is a scarcity mindset, the belief that there is not enough to go around. Falling into this trap can kill your motivation to keep going. What if you believe there are enough listeners and sponsors for everyone?
Podcast mindset trap number 5.
Negative self-talk. We're all susceptible to this one, but when it comes to your podcast, it can show up like, I sound terrible. I hate my voice. I butchered that interview. This person said no to being on my podcast because they hate my show. I'm a joke as a podcaster, and I have no business putting a show out there every week. I could go on because I've had a lot of podcasters share their innermost self-doubts with me. Needless to say, your confidence can only take so much of this.
Podcast mindset trap number 6.
Fixed mindset. This can show up in 2 different ways. First, as the belief that you know everything you need to know, or that your skill level can't be improved on. The second is that how things are now is how they will always be. This mindset trap is dangerous because you start to believe that your podcast can't be helped, that it will never be what you want or need it to be. So you stop trying. And guess what happens? You feel so disillusioned that you convince yourself that it's not working and it will never work. This is the beginning of the end.
Mindset trap number 7.
Imposter syndrome. And yes, this is the granddaddy of the mindset traps. This one can kill a podcast before it ever gets off the ground, but it can definitely hurt existing podcasts too. If you've ever thought, I have no business hosting a podcast, I'm not an expert, or there are bigger, more qualified experts, I could never ask that guest to be on my little show, Or this one, I'm a fraud and people are going to figure it out soon. This imposter syndrome comes from a fear of judgment and is totally natural. Although it can happen in conjunction with the comparison mindset trap and even the perfectionism mindset trap. So be careful. Okay, that was all 7 of them. And man, holy crap, podcasting is a minefield. No wonder so many podcasters give up. Who has the energy to be dodging or escaping all of these mindset traps? Luckily, there is one single antidote that can help you both avoid and get out of all of these mindset traps. Before I share that with you, I also want to add that hiring a podcast coach is an excellent way to navigate this minefield. As a coach, I've been able to point out these traps way before podcasters realize they're stuck in one and set them up to avoid them in the future. Now, aside from coaching, let me give you that one mindset reset that is the antidote to these negative mindset traps. Focus on the listener. Yeah.
It's that simple.
Committing to having a listener-centric approach can keep you out of these traps. Remember that your show is for your listener, not for or about you, but for and about your listener is how you get out of these traps. When you show up for your podcast with serving the listener as your primary objective, the rest of these things stop mattering. Let's review those mindset traps again so you can see what I mean. Perfectionism, comparisоnism, great expectations, scarcity, negative self-talk, fixed mindset, imposter syndrome. All of these things have to do with you and your ego. These are your fears. None of these things have to do with your ideal listener. Your listener doesn't care that you're not perfect, not as experienced as so-and-so, or not getting $1 million deal in the first year. They care about one thing, themselves. They show up each episode with one thought. What's in it for me? Boy, are they greedy, aren't they? They're just so greedy. But I love them because I'm the same way. When you focus on them and you serve them, they will keep listening because what's in it for them is everything. And all of those other mindset traps, they're nothing. Those are all made up distractions getting in the way of you creating a podcast that serves your listeners like crazy, giving them a reason to keep showing up and develop that know, like, and trust that leads to you hitting your podcast goals. Harness that listener-centric focus, and you'll be able to sprint through the mindset minefield. And I hope that's just the tip you need. How about you and I talk? Let's talk about your podcast. Just you and me, your struggles, your goals, your format, your guests. Ask me anything. Book your free 15-minute coaching call by using the link in the show notes or at podcastperformancecoach.com. I'm Tim Walberg. See ya.